Just waiting for it to
do its thing.
Okay.
Bruce Lee.
All right, we are live. Managing Violence podcast, episode 71, joined by my good friend and mentor, Mr. Richard Dimitri. Rich, it's been a minute. Great to talk to you again, my friend.
Likewise, man. Likewise.
Yeah,
mentor. Thank you. Sweet.
Well, dude, I've said many times on the podcast, it was attending the seminar with you in 2007 that changed.
Oh, where you broke my shoulder?
Yeah, that one. Yeah.
Oh, that one. Yeah,
you remember well. Good. I just like to point out.
I remember you every day. You're crunching.
I point out I did buy you a gift afterwards to say sorry.
You did. You did.
You have a
Which is why I'm doing your show. No,
I think about it. Like I broke your right shoulder, and then I bought you a boomerang that you wouldn't be able to throw, which is kind of a little bit.
Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah, good stuff. Man, welcome. We're chatting today. I mean, look, we're going to talk about all sorts of things because the way that we talk, we're going to go on that many tangents that we'll forget the actual topic. So we'll start off trying to stay focused. But the whole impetus behind this conversation is to commemorate the life of Bruce Lee. Bruce Lee would turn 80 this week. If he was still with us, it's crazy to think about what he would be doing if he was alive. You know, where would his mind be taking us? And I know he had a massive influence on your journey. He certainly had a massive influence on mine. And I thought it'd be fun to reminisce and point that proverbial finger at the moon and see and sort of deconstruct some of that and see. I mean, look, to me, Bruce is still he's still ahead of his time. He's been dead for nearly 50 years, and still people are still trying to catch up with what he was talking about in the 60s.
He on so many levels he is very ahead of his time, and it's kind of, you know, especially in today's times, it's like we've kind of been declining a bit. You get the flat earthers and the anti-vax. Anyway, so yeah, he's ahead of his time even by today's standards for sure. But to also a degree, there's a lot of people who have also surpassed. And I don't like to use the term, honestly, surpassed, because you can't surpass someone who didn't have a chance to continue on. You can only pick up where they left off and move forward. And there's, you know, and a lot of people did that in many, many different literally aspects and facets, if you will. Not just down the road of self-defense, but from the mixed martial arts world to the self-defense world to the, you know, the professional sports world. This man influenced and billions of people outside of the martial arts and the self-defense realm. So yeah,
absolutely
surpassing. Yeah. I mean, the guy was 32, 33, right, when he passed.
Yeah, 33, you know, and the fact that we're still saying, oh, some people have surpassed him. Like some people have surpassed what a guy accomplished in the first 33 years of his life, and realistically was in the public eye for less than 10 years. I mean, and the fact that he's still the most widely known martial artist of all time. I mean, if we're talking about general public, it's crazy. It's crazy to think of.
Yeah, which I find. At first I found the haters, because there's haters out there on the guy, which is strange, you know. And these are people coming in the field that you know, you're hating on somebody that if it wasn't for that somebody, you wouldn't be able to be hating on anyone and doing what you're doing. You wouldn't have made it there because this guy opened the door and paved it for all of us. But I get it, you know. They don't hate him. You can't hate the guy. The guy did nothing wrong to anyone except, you know, the personal shit. But everybody who, you know, Gandhi beat his wife. What are you gonna do? Hate on him?
Yeah.
So, you know, so did Martin Luther King. Everybody's got their flaws. But the haters today, it's more of I think they hate the fans more and the glorification more, perhaps. And I get that. But the guy's an icon and he's become a legend. And that's what we do with legends. We pedestal them, right?
Well, that's right, man. And I think with Bruce, it's more about what he stood for and about the change that he ushered in, more than his own skill set. And I think what
Right.
people hate on sometimes is that you have the hero worshippers that like I get it. I grew up on Bruce Lee movies, as like most of us did.
I hero worshipped him all the way up until my early 20s.
Yeah.
Literally, yeah, I mean, hero worshipped, idolized, posters, they emulated shit when I was 16, 17. I was, doing this shit. And
If you ever hit yourself in the head with nunchucks, you are not a martial artist. I mean,
oh shit, last week. But yeah,
it's just
completely. For sure, he's an icon, and for so many different reasons, like you say.
Yeah, exactly. But I think what people sometimes rebel against is the people that are like, oh, well, if Bruce Lee was around now, he would be the UFC champion. Like, well, we don't know that. Like, we don't know how good he wasn't actually fighting. Like, I mean, there's stories, but everyone can beat up some drunks in a bar. Everyone can win a street fight every now and then. If you're trained and you're athletic, then you're probably going to do okay. So I mean,
better than the average fucking schmo, right? So
I mean, this who knows, right? But what I think is Bruce Lee's legacy, and what I really want to unpack with you today, is the way he approached martial arts and the mindset that he brought to martial arts. And I think that has really laid the foundation not only for MMA, which certainly was a game changer in terms of how people train and what people are looking for, but also the reality-based self-defense movement, because he was talking about things in 1971 in Liberate Yourself in Classical Karate, which I'll read some excerpts from, and things he was talking about in Longstreet, and things he was talking about even in his movies, in some of the dialogue that really we would look at now and go, that could quite easily come from a Jeff Thompson, or it could quite easily come from a Richard Dimitri or a Tony Blauer, or
100%. Oh my God.
And realistically probably influenced like all those people. I mean, no one was saying that beforehand. So, well, I mean, people were saying beforehand with that platform,
Yeah, to the level of and the extent of, for sure. And anybody who would deny that is kind of, you're fucking lying.
Yeah, and I think he just came along at the right time as well. I mean, the right time to shake things up. I mean, the fact that he was an Asian guy that was suddenly in the public eye at a time when that wasn't really happening. A little bit of anti-establishment going on. He wasn't a massive dude. He was a little guy, but he also had that charisma. Like he had, like you can watch like the early interviews of a young Bruce Lee, like in his early 20s. And like the dude is magnetic. Like there's something that he's got that confidence, he's got that charisma, he's got just he's just good looking enough that he appeals to Western audience as well, because he's got that 1/4 German thing. It was just the right melting pot, and he was confident to express himself even in English, and talk about things that weren't just kowtowing. So, I'm happy to be here. He was doing more than that.
Right, and he was so charismatic, and what made him so different than anybody else, before or even after him. Maybe, look, now Jackie Chan is also legendary, so I can't take anything away from Jackie Chan. But what made Bruce Lee was the fact that it doesn't matter what he's doing on camera, you want to see him. I mean, the guy could be fucking eating. He's eating like, he's eating, doing kung fu and shit. So he could be having a conversation, kissing a woman, walking down the street. You want to be looking at him. Whereas anybody who kind of came after him, if they weren't getting into a fight, once VHS came in, you're fast forwarding to the next fight. But Bruce, you're not, unless you've seen the movie 728,000 times like I did. So eventually you're like, okay, I can recite it. I'm just going to fast forward to the fight scene now.
I actually the opposite with Bruce's movies. The fight scenes are like, Like I want to see everything else in the movie. Like the philosophy is more interesting to me than the fight scenes now.
Yeah, right. That reversed as you get older, because then you go, "Wow, the fight scenes suck.
Yeah,
they're horrible. Holy shit!" But compared to what they were doing, but compared to what they were doing back then, and when I was growing up watching that, because I was born in 1969, so my dad was pretty liberal with me. So I saw Enter the Dragon when I was 6 or 7. And he took me to the drive-in literally when it came out here to see it. And then the next day he enrolled me in karate, Kyokushinkai or whatever it was. So there you go. There's a, you know, right away it's like boom, boom, and here I am. So yeah, it's the legacy is phenomenal.
Yeah, and even for me, it's like a generation ahead. I mean, like I was born in '86, but my two older brothers were born in '71 and 73.
Right.
And so they kind of were, and they were martial artists as well, like from teenagers, taekwondo and boxing. So I grew up like from as early as I can remember. Like the TV always had either a Bruce Lee movie or a Jean-Claude Van Damme movie, or like, you know, whatever other 80s, early 90s action movies there were. But there was always that steady stream of martial arts, like Best of the Best, Enter the Dragon, Rumble in the Bronx. Like there's always something like that on. And yeah, and it's just sort of like
you just described all the people who raised me.
Yeah. Let's have a bit of a deconstruction of Liberate Yourself from Classical Karate, because this was the article that kind of started everything in terms of you know, it's weird. A lot of people don't realize that Bruce didn't really get famous until after his death.
That's right.
It was after his death. A lot of
he was writing for Black Belt magazine for a while, and people were trashing on him. I remember I had a book of the compilations of all his writings and people's responses and his responses back to them that they piled up. I think I still have that somewhere. I clearly remember people are like, you're fucking arguing with the guy. Who is that? Like, I mean, but the perspective that I was reading it was after his death, not at the time he was writing it. At the time he was writing it, he was still fucking no one. Just
he was just some dude from China, some dude from Hong Kong that had done kung fu, and that was it. You know, that's all they knew about him.
That's it.
Yeah. So I'm just gonna pull apart some pieces. I love the introduction. So he starts off by talking about the Zen teacher and the pouring tea into a cup and it overflowing and so on. His introduction. This is like the de-escalation strategy when you know you're about to have a difficult conversation, right? You give an intro so that you sort of set the scene. He goes, I hope my comrades in the martial arts will read the following paragraphs with open-mindedness, leaving all the burdens of preconceived opinions and conclusions behind. This act, by the way, has in itself a liberating power. After all, the usefulness of the cup is in its emptiness.
It's brilliant.
Yeah,
it's brilliant. It's also manipulative, but it's brilliant.
Yeah. Hey, you know what? De-escalation is manipulation. It's just manipulation. It's a manipulative outcome.
It is manipulation of human behavior in relation to violence. Yeah, absolutely. And if you want any argument, conflict for sure. It's fucking brilliant.
Yeah,
he wrote that in 71, right?
71, yeah.
Think about that. By today's standards, 90% of people like they won't grasp, or they'll fight that tooth and nail.
Well, how many people do we know at the moment that still can't empty their cup? You know, like, and every shift, like looking at just in my lifetime in martial arts, right? Every shift, people think they're more liberal or they're more open-minded than their predecessors, and then they get to a point where they close off themselves. And it's like, for example, right? We have traditional martial artists. Let's talk about our world of reality-based self-defense, right? So you got traditional martial artists that rebelled against reality-based self-defense because you're not wearing a gi, or you're not wearing a uniform, or you're not you're swearing, or you're wearing shoes on the mat, or you're doing all these kinds of things that are traditional no-nos. And there's like this rebellion against that's not martial arts. That's not how you train. And you've got this reality-based self-defense movement. They're saying, no, we're training for reality. We're open-minded. We're taking the best of everything that works. We're getting rid of kata. We're getting rid of all these useless.
That was the origins, right? That's like.
Yeah. And then you get to this point where you're like, that's cool. And then 10, 15 years later, once those people have students, you end up with this like, well, all karate is useless. All martial arts are useless. Like there's no benefit there. You're not training for the streets with like Z's and like exclamation marks, right? So you're not training for the street. Therefore, what you're doing is useless. Like now you become just as close-minded. Your cup is just as full as the people that you were trying to replace. because you become so shut off to the other benefits outside of just self-defense.
Right.
And
yes, that's people kind of have that, and you can see it now more than ever. They have like absolutes. They have a really hard time understanding or grasping that two different realities can coexist. I was actually having this discussion with Pam earlier on about just my reality, how I am thankful for what I have, but I'm at the same time, I'm frustrated by the amount of work I've put in my life by what I have, though I'm very thankful for this, you know, and I said that reality can coexist. I can be very thankful for the things that I have, and I am, because there's, you know, I know what it's like to have less and be in the shit, because I've been there too. But still be frustrated by the fact that so we don't have to be defined by absolutes where no, blah, 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 and this is the only way and the way. It could be for certain things, but like you said, to dismiss the potential other benefits of other things, well, you know, that would be very limiting, wouldn't it? It's like you said, it completely goes against the whole empty cup process. You've now filled your cup.
And I think it happens.
And so...
Sorry to cut you off.
No, because you're about to say what I think I was about to say. You're about to say, I think it happens to all of us at some point or another, where we get caught in our own shit. And yeah, we're human.
And I think it happens too with that second generation. You know, like there's always the pioneers that know the old world, and then they find the new world, and then their children or their second generation or in the martial arts world, their students who don't have any connection to the old world think that the new world is all there is. You know, and when that happens, then you end up with like by the third generation, like we're back in the sensei says mentality of, well, my instructor said this,
yes,
and their instructor had no connection to reality or no connection to where their origins were, so therefore there's no perspective.
Right. And people have a hard time with change, and people have a hard time with, you know, evolution. It's not an easy task. I think change and growth is generally always accompanied by some form of pain for some reason. Well, and the pain is self-manifested to a degree that it's our own emotional attachments to certain things that makes it so difficult to let go of. And the pain is caused by that. Hey, if I don't get to here, I'm going to be stuck there. I went through it with Senshito, which is why I don't have any association to it. You know, the people who are attached with me couldn't get past the fucking shredder and the, you know, the combatives aspect of it, and we got to do and the whole process of evolving to them, they're like, you know, and I can see it, you know, people now are like, in that world, I'm being called a woke pussy, and which I don't even know what that means. I mean, I know what a pussy is, but what's a woke pussy? I don't know. Which is fine, whatever you want to say. But I see who's saying it, and I go, yeah, of course you're going to be saying that, because you're where I was 20 years ago, and I probably may have said that of somebody else who's where I am now. But I didn't walk that, you know, that I didn't do that journey to understand. I'm not pissed at them for saying that. I get it. I mean, it's not the greatest way of expressing it, but hell, I've done worse. I was in Finland, and I've done worse. You know, so I'm not judging. I
think I remember that video from Finland you're talking about.
Yeah, dude, I got a mouth on me. You know, look, it's all part of, and I was suffering through my own traumas without even fucking knowing it. I had anger issues, I had whatever. So, and I manifested a platform for it, and you know, but you got to come to the realization event. Well, I mean, you don't gotta. Everyone's got to do what they got to do. But eventually, I came this way. This isn't healthy. I want to find the root of all of this. Why are people doing this? Why did this guy do that? How do we get there? Yeah. What can we do to prevent it? De-escalation isn't enough. It's not enough to de-escalate. That's still a band-aid solution. How do we get deeper to the cause root that got us here so we can fucking not get here?
Yeah.
Right.
And
so
a paradigm shift, isn't it? I mean, it's not just about adding extra pages to the beginning of the book. You know, it's not just about adding to a skill set. It's actually a paradigm shift in how you look at things.
No, yeah, it's not a forced issue. It can't be. It's like, oh, we need to evolve. So let's create something today that's going to make our. You can't Frankenstein that process. That's a process that comes by experience, observation, analytical interrogation, self-analysis, self-expression, looking at the results, going, oh shit, you know, what did that attract me at that time? What does this attract me? You know, and the ability to do that, to introspect and grow past and pick up on your mistakes and go, shit, why did I road rage, or why was I like that, and why did I get triggered by it this way? And do I really want to blah, 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 blah? I mean, I couldn't imagine, I'm 51, I couldn't imagine still living with that anger that I had in me when it was in my 20s and my 30s, all the way up until my early 40s, until I, you know, so it's, and I don't want to put that on my kid, man. I got a kid. Yeah, that's generational shit too. A lot of it is, so I can't be fucking, I've got a duty.
Yeah,
I got to fix this. I owe it to him. I owe it to me. Then at the same time, it's beautiful because it ties right into my work, doesn't it? It's exactly it. They work together.
Yeah.
So I have it. I can deal with it through experience. I have experience with violence. I also have experience with fucking complex PTSD and trauma. Yeah. I lived it, living it. I have all of the fucking things. I have the awareness of it. I've done in. So I can relate and I can see other people and go, I get it.
Yeah.
And some people I'll have discussions with them. I go, look, I know where you're at. I hope you can one day get past it. Well, I think that, but good. I know, I get it. I was there too. When you're ready, you're ready. And if you're not, you're not. Some people are never ready.
Yeah, well, you're not going to change someone's worldview with a course, you know.
It's not my job. It's not my job.
And actually, that's a nice segue back into Bruce. So I'll just read you the next paragraph because I think this actually encompasses some of what we're talking about. And then again, beautiful. 1971, right?
We have to keep that in mind.
1971 in a martial arts magazine. Think about the depth of what he's saying here. This is the second paragraph, right? We've read one paragraph so far. The second paragraph. Make this article relate to yourself because though it is on Jeet Kune Do, it is primarily concerned with the blossoming of a martial artist, not a Chinese martial artist or a Japanese martial artist. A martial artist is a human being first. Just as nationalities have nothing to do with one's humanity, so they have nothing to do with martial arts. Leave your protective shell of isolation and relate directly to what is being said. Return to your senses by ceasing all the intervening intellectual mumbo-jumbo. Remember that life is a constant process of relating. Remember too that I seek neither your approval nor to influence you toward my way of thinking. I will be more than satisfied if, as a result of this article, you begin to investigate everything for yourself and cease to uncritically accept prescribed formulas that describe that this is this and that is that. Man.
There you go, right?
You just said in one paragraph what we've been rambling about for 10 minutes.
Yeah, right, exactly. And it, you know, he had a lot of insight. Yeah. Right. And this guy, he knew himself to a vast degree, although he was still his own worst enemy, wasn't he, at the end of the day?
Of course. But I mean, this is just the thing about the one, I'm ridiculously embarrassed that he's writing that well in his second language. That he's so eloquent.
Well, he was and the term is thrown around very loosely these days on anyone who does something above average in society, but he was a genius in that field. I don't know about how good he was in anything else, but in terms of martial arts and understanding what was then considered as, you know, spirituality aspect of it, the whole process of, which is directly, if you're looking at it, it's really not spiritual, but it's understanding mental health and your state of being in relation to your own experiences and how you interpret them, isn't it? And so that's brilliant. And he was 33, 32.
I think 31 when he wrote that. I mean,
yeah, right. He's
with a young man who has grown up with a chip on his shoulder And I mean, has every right or every reason that you would objectively look at to go, this guy's going to be a bit of a douche, right? I mean, he's grown up.
Right.
He's grown up as a child actor. We know that doesn't typically go well.
Right.
He's grown up with martial arts and some trauma, and he's changed countries, and he's dealing with racism, and he's a young man who's full of testosterone. Like there's every reason that he would be an unreasonable human being, right?
Right.
And yet there's a level of profundity and insight in this writing that is even now is striking. You know, like we tend to think of Bruce Lee. Like, I mean, I think sometimes we miss the fact that he's a young man, right? We think of Bruce Lee because he influenced us for so long, that he's this old wise sage on a mountain, you know. But
No, man.
He was a young dude getting into street fights, going to nightclubs, you know, drinking, partying, living the Hollywood lifestyle or the Hong Kong. You know, like this writing sounds like it's coming from Bruce Lee as a 60-year-old, not Bruce Lee as a 30-year-old.
Exactly. And not only as a 60-year-old, but not your average 60-year-old either.
Yeah.
It's not, you know, not too many people are thinking or identifying at that level at any age.
Yeah.
It's because it's the hardest thing to do, and nothing in society is teaching us to do that. Everything is taught exterior.
Yeah.
Oh, you're feeling bad? Take a pill, buy a cookie, smoke a cigarette, do this, do that. But nobody's teaching you, hey, in here, right? Self-reflect. What's going on and why? Nobody's doing that. And it's the most uncomfortable thing. And people are in constant need of distractions. How many people can stand to be alone with themselves without television or a telephone or a computer or a book? Just sit down by yourself for 4 hours with nothing. Just your own thoughts. Just sit down. Don't fall asleep. Don't nap. Don't read. Just fucking sit there.
Yeah.
Most people can't do that.
Exactly.
They can't. It's impossible for them, you know? And so this guy's talking about levels of sexualization that go beyond the capacity of sitting for 4 hours by yourself, to, you know, at the age of 30 in 1970.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, we're dealing with a different level of, you know, individual here.
Yeah.
Which is why we're talking about him today. 56. I mean, he died in 73. We're in.
Yeah, so 47 years later, you know, like we're talking about him on his 80th birthday when he didn't get to see 35. You know, like it's
you know, it's exactly that. I mean, you made it. He did it.
Well, I mean, like the man who knew him better than just about anybody else, Dan Inosanto, still reveres Bruce, right? This is someone. I mean, the people that I know now, like Bruce Lee died younger than the age I am right now, right? The people that I know now, and Dan and Bruce are basically the same age. I think Dan might be a couple of years different, but right. I mean, they're basically the same age. So they're peers. Like, I can't think of. Am I going to be still referring to someone that I know now the same age as me as my teacher, as someone that I am still drawing inspiration from 50 years from now if they were to die today? I mean, that's it's not, and that's not a hero worship. I mean, this is a man who knew Bruce as a human being with all his flaws, and not just the public perception, and not just reading the books, and not just watching the movies, but a man who actually lived with him, traveled with him, trained with him, knew everything about him, and he still reveres him 50 years later. And that's right. That's a testament, man. If the people that know you as better than anybody say that you were that you were something special, that's what really matters. And there's a line. There's one line in that one paragraph. Remember that life is a constant process of relating. Yeah, that to me is like, there's so many layers to that. It's not just about martial arts. It's not just about self-defense. And yes, you can certainly say relating to people is like fundamental to conflict management, but it's relating to the world around you and about the different phases you'll go through in your life. And we're just talking about this, right? The way you relate to the world around you in your teens, in your 20s, in your 30s, in your 40s, in your 50s is going to be different. Well, at least it should be, right?
Right. It should be. It's like wasn't it Muhammad Ali who said if you lived 30 years, right? Something along the lines, but you're
if I see the world the same way I do at 50 as I did at 20, I've wasted 30 years, something like that.
Yeah, or something like that, right? Yeah, so for sure I mean, yeah, it's such a, it's such a level of understanding. For Bruce Lee, the martial arts was a vehicle. Whereas for everybody else, it's become the focal point. It's almost like politics, religion, Mustang versus Camaro, or Tag versus Rolex. They have that. They've missed the point. Even his disciples today, or followers, or people who are like, there's some fans who, and that happened. But that's common, right? Which is why, look, he was saying he started off he still had the name Jeet Kune Do at the time when he wrote the article. And what does he do a couple of years later? He's like, fuck that name, burn it. Because it's like you got stuck on the name. It's like, oh, that's the Jeet Kune Do way. Like, no, you're missing the point. It's not about the fucking name. And so people get stuck again in the absolutes, and it's almost like they don't have that ability to go, okay, hold on. There's multiple possibilities here. There's pros and cons. It's not an absolute. There is no black and white absolute solution, resolution, whatever to this, because we're human. And so the martial arts becomes a vehicle for him that got him to where he is, his method of self-actualization. From my understanding, of course, because I was a huge fan. I devoured anything. If his picture was on it, I bought it. I was fucking retarded. I had stickers of the guy.
Black Belt were well aware that they could put Bruce Lee's picture on every on a magazine.
Black Belt. I had stickers of Bruce Lee that they're on my bike. I had keychains, fucking anything that the guy was on. The guy ate a certain way, I would eat a certain way.
Dude, and it's still now. Like, I mean, I'm a mega Bruce Lee fan as well, and there's a reason that Sharon Lee is a millionaire, right? And it's got, I mean, she's smart with a business, but she's got a hell of a brand to work with. And Converse have just released Bruce Lee sneakers this year, right?
Dude, if I was 16, 17 when all this was happening, oh my God, I would have been in heaven.
G-Shock just released, I don't know if you've seen it, but G-Shock are actually releasing a Bruce Lee watch to commemorate his 80th birthday.
Yeah, I saw.
It's like $4,000. Like
I know.
I don't foresee me buying a $4,000 G-Shock, but if I had the money, for sure.
I wouldn't buy it if it was $10. I've just gotten so beyond all of that stuff that I don't care about anything anymore like that.
But dude, it's yellow. Bruce Lee on it.
I know, it's cool. I love it.
Dude,
and I get that, it doesn't help with the haters, all that stuff too.
But it's a brand, like Bruce Lee has become this, which I'm sure I would love to know what he thinks about that. Like what his opinion is on, like, he's become the classical karate, like and at
the age of 30. He probably would have been pissed off. But if you would have fast forwarded and he was like 70 and this was happening, or 75 and he's at home because he can't move from all this shit. So he'd be like, hey, as long as my daughter's being fed, I don't give a fuck. Do what you want.
Yeah.
That's what I would be like. I don't give a fuck what you do with my shit. 10 years before I die. I got a kid. My kid's eating off my shit. Eat, buddy.
Yeah, it's fine.
Make a living. Fuck the world. Survive.
Yeah, you get past your idealism and just go, you know what? That'll do. That's fine. Let's get back into this article for a second, because there's man, we could literally do like 5 hours just on this one article. That's
go ahead,
man. Like it's ridiculous that there's so much in this.
I know, it's brilliant.
Up to paragraph 3. Suppose several persons who are trained in different styles of combative arts witness an all-out street fight. I'm sure we would hear different versions from each of these stylists. Such variations are quite understandable, for one cannot see a fight or anything else as long as he is blinded by his chosen point of view, for example, style, and he will view the fight through the lens of this particular conditioning. Fighting as is simple and total. It is not limited to your perspective of conditioning as a Chinese martial artist. True observation begins when one sheds set patterns, and true freedom of expression occurs when one is beyond systems.
Right there. It's beautiful. It's brilliant.
And I'm going to throw a stone right now, because I'm not a Jeet Kune Do guy, although I'm a fan of the work. But Jeet Kune Do people need to read that paragraph.
I know, like it badly. It's I can't even believe that. Well, I can, because people are people in the brand. Everybody wants to make a buck. But the fact that the name Jeet Kune Do still exists, in my opinion, is a huge disrespect to the man who asked for it to be fucking wiped out, because nobody understood it. So for anybody to go against the guy, the creator's will, and to do it in representation of the creator is fucking stupid. You're a fucking idiot. You know, or you don't really like the creator. You're like, fuck him, I'm going to stick it to him. He's an asshole anyway. I'm going to use his name to make a buck for myself while I pretend, oh yeah, I like him. He's blah, blah, blah. You know, because I'm just going to pocket off the guy's, you know, old work. Yeah. But fine, sure, whatever, fine.
I think people are still trying to frantically cling to that set point, you know, like this is what I need to do. Actually, a really interesting comment just came through from Tommy Joe Moore, former guest of the show. G'day, Tommy. He just said that I think Bruce would love being a brand. He was a marketing mastermind. The shows, the exhibitions, the casting calls. Pretending not to care about a brand was probably his brand masterstroke.
Hey, you know what?
As well.
Possibly. That's fucking, hey, bravo. If that's the case, he's even smarter than I thought he was, the motherfucker.
He's played us 50 years later. Yeah.
Champion. Love it. Brilliant.
So look, I'm not going to read the whole article because it's a huge article, but there's so much in there about rejecting patterns and dead systems and not just emulating things, but seeing things afresh. And I think that's a decent segue to talk about. I guess I'd be remiss to have you on and not talk about some of your journey as well. But also like just the most recent evolutions. I mean, we can talk about reality-based self-defense, and we can talk about the journey from being a martial artist to more like sitting above the Burger King watching fights and deconstructing movements. Like I think we told that story in the first episode. If not, go listen to one of Richard's other interviews, because like that story's been told, right? But I'm really interested in and I guess providing a little bit more light. I've talked about study of violence on the show several times. I think when we did our last interview, I think you were just about to launch it, or it was before the launch because it hadn't happened just yet. And then it's something I've directed people to quite often, even off the record professionally, sending people to that, because it's when people say, I don't know where to start with self-defense, what should I do? And the first thing I do is say, hey, make sure you go check out either go do Randy King's course, but if you don't want to spend any money, then study of violence is like, that is a good foundation point. You can sit there, you can absorb it in a night.
It's a lot deeper than a foundation too. It's literally without anecdotes and personal experiences that you would get in a live course. It's a fucking entire course. I mean, shit, man, the fundamentals of personal protection that I used to charge people $2,000 a workshop for wasn't as detailed and informative as what I'm now giving away for fucking free on that site. And that's like, I mean, there's 5 full courses. So it's literally, it's a foundation in terms of the prevention and management of violence. Yeah, that is the core root. And the reason why we're giving it away, there's many, is I really, really feel that I don't own any of that shit. I didn't come up with that. That's not my material. That is material I gathered from countless other experts in various fields of violence and forensics and psychology and criminology, and complied with my own experiences, and of course, and that matched. And so I, in my brain, like to charge for something that like, this is what it's like charging people for water. I think that's disgusting. It's horrible. It's my fucking tap, you cunt. You're charging me for it. It's horrible. You're making money or selling air. So it kind of falls along those lines. Now, anything deeper than that becomes specialized. I'll charge you for it. Not a problem.
Yeah.
Fucking charge you an arm and a leg too, because fuck you. I bled for that shit. Do you have any idea what I went through to get that information for you? That said, yeah, it's like we always say, it's free. There's no attachments, and yeah. So I really appreciate you sending people to that, and I would love for as many instructors to go there and steal my shit, steal it all.
Do it.
You don't even have to give me credit, because most of you won't anyway. But they don't. Most don't. I get it. Whatever the fuck. I don't care. That's why it's there for free.
Studyofviolence.com for anyone who doesn't know what we're talking about. Go to studyofviolence.com.
Right.
But the reason I send people there is, and I'm talking about not necessarily martial artists, but people that are coming to me like after I teach them a conflict management course or a de-escalation course or something like that, and I say I just want to know more. I want my kids to know more, or my daughter's going to university and I really want her to have some foundational knowledge. What can I do? The reason, and they're looking for a style recommendation, because that's how most people equate self-defense and violence management. They need, what martial art should I get them to do? Like, well, probably none. But let's start off. Like, I used to just say, buy The Gift of Fear and read that, right? But reality, is most people don't have the attention span to read a book that size anymore. So, but they will sit down and watch YouTube videos. So what I think, and obviously your material goes far beyond Gift of Fear, but what I say is that watch that, and then if you still want to train, find an instructor who seems to understand that material, because the ones that, they don't have to understand it word for word, like they don't have to be Richard Dimitri trained, but no. They seem to have like an idea of that kind of world. They're probably going to teach you good stuff. If they're completely oblivious to violence prevention, if they're completely oblivious to trauma, if they're oblivious to real criminal psychology and predatory psychology, then at best your material is going to be hit and miss. It's going to be some good stuff, some bad stuff, probably some irresponsible stuff. Whereas if you at least have that filter of knowing how things should look, then it's much easier to make that informed choice. And I think it's something we take for granted when we've been in the industry for a long time, that you're able to kind of look at an instructor and go, yeah, okay, you probably know it, or no, you don't. Like, to a newbie, it's hard to pass the glitz and glamour and the uniforms and and the bravado and the marketing materials.
Yeah, it's very, very hard out there for people to which is why we've been on the process of always differentiating. But no matter how many times I do it, it's like I said, just literally about 4 or 5 months before releasing Study of Violence, I kind of released the post going, hey, we've given you this, we've given you that. Get ready for something bigger now. We're going to give you Study of Violence. I knew that people would take, like, there's a lot of people who are taking that material and are charging other people money for it. They're making courses with it. They're doing their own thing. They're doing their workshops. They're doing their, and I'm good. That doesn't bother me one bit, to be deathly honest. Hey, I'm for anybody making a buck, and if at least you're going to sell something, you're selling good shit. So I really have no issue with it. I don't. So but for the general public, there's a lot of people that don't know, and then there's a lot of people, the people who are really looking for it, like, I mean, on a level, like when Pam was searching for this stuff, she was looking for stuff. That's because one of her friends was violently raped. And Pam understood and understands what rape constitutes. So when she started searching for self-defense, she already understood what the violence was, and nothing that she found online that people were teaching matched what her friend went through. Yeah. She's looking at the pictures of the guys in the tattoo, the this, the that, the this, the kicks, the bad, and I'm like, she's like, nobody's covering this. This isn't what I'm looking for, which is how she ended up with me in SAFE. Yeah. So there's some who aren't. Now, for the people who aren't, it's difficult. And for a lot of people, unfortunately, in which it does a huge disservice to the self-defense world, is the people who teach certain methods. You know, there's guys out there with the Spartan helmet logo and the brass knuckle logo and the skulls with the crossbone logo and the dragon logo or whatever the fuck it is. They're very macho, tough logos going, we teach self-defense. You know, it's then you get an average 24-year-old female who's concerned. She's not looking for skulls and bones and Spartan helmets, and she's not looking to be one of the 300 Spartans.
Like, and just for perspective, for anyone who's getting their feelings hurt, just remember that Rich started off with Shido Tactical Urban Combat.
Yeah.
With a ponytail, right?
No, the ponytail came a bit later. It came.
Sorry, I'm getting my timeline mixed up.
I know, absolutely, 100%.
Yeah, it's the finger pointing to the moon, right? It's empty. It's about constantly relating to your environment, and you don't. The benefit of talking to Rich Dimitri now at 51 is that you get to learn from that journey. You don't have to go, he doesn't get it, he's a woke pussy. Like you can go, okay, maybe he's seen something that I haven't seen yet because he's older than me, or he's been down the journey, or he's dealt with more trauma than me, or whatever. And I think
that would take the ability to relate and to have empathy. And there's a lot of people in this field that don't, or have very limited or selective empathy.
Well, I'm a big believer that you can't, like, to me, empathy is the foundation of everything we do, right? If you don't have empathy, you can't manage conflict. And if you do successfully, I often say in de-escalation, right? If you don't have empathy, you're not reliably de-escalating anybody. The only people who de-escalate without empathy are the people that didn't want to escalate to begin with, and they actually themselves because they're good human beings that didn't want to punch you. But with empathy is when you can actually start to control people's emotions, and start to influence their emotions. But I think it's what Bruce Lee was saying, right? It's relating. It's about understanding.
That's the thing too, right? Like you're saying, the relation, what Bruce Lee was saying, to go back to what I was doing when I was 24, 25 with tactical urban combat. I was 24, 25 years old. I was working for all intents and purposes for the mob, doing all kinds of crazy shit from security to counter, fucking all kinds of stuff. That's my perception. And I'm suffering from the loss of my brother, the trauma of a whole bunch of shit that I never dealt with, and nobody that just, right? And now I'm teaching self-defense and martial arts, and I have a location in the heart of Montreal. If I was teaching at 24, what I'm doing today, what I'm, how I got to here, it wouldn't have worked in that environment, in that location with those people. It's not right. And I couldn't have got here, not in that state of mind, right, going through what I was going through at that age, without having gone through what I've gone through. Yeah. So, and that was the opening stop. When you start to look and go, war right now, and you're exposed to new information, and you go, wait a minute, this is a lot better than that. Or this is beautiful. This is the missing piece. Now we can put this to this. We have it. Nobody's interested in that. I don't care that they're not interested in it. That's the meat.
Yeah.
You're not going to fill seminars with that. Not those types of seminars. I won't. No, because that's not what they want. Yeah. I'm going to go over there and fill those types of seminars now. Yeah. I can still be teaching that stuff. I can still go back and, open a school when the COVID stops and get a ring and put up a few bags. But I'm 51. I'm not in that shape anymore, man. I can't be fucking throwing punches every night. I'm going to have to hire people to teach those classes. I got shoulders bummed out and I got aches and pains, I'm functional. I can do, right? But not to teach 15, 16 group classes a week like I fucking used to a bunch of 15 to 20-year-olds who are angry and still see the world the way I saw it at 20. Now I could become their mentor doing this shit. It's a whole different animal, but I have to make that choice to do that. And I could go back to that and I could make a significant difference there that way and still incorporate this there, but that's not me anymore. And that's not the direction, you know, I'm much more comfortable here. You know, this is, and so, that's why when I look at certain people today in their 20s or 30s and they're teaching, you know, aggressive, you know, they're combatives and they're, they got swords everywhere. And tonight we're doing tomahawk trading. Okay. I don't judge that. And I don't go, fuck you, what you're doing is wrong. No, they're, you know, fucking, these guys are really talented too. A lot of them are really good fucking fighters. We're not doing the same thing. So it's not worse or not worse. You're doing what I was doing 20 years ago. You're where I was there, but you're 30. But if I look at a guy today and he's in his 40s, 50s, 60s, and he's still doing that, I'm going, wow, buddy. You missed out on a lot. Yeah, you missed out on a lot. How are you still there?
Yeah, and this is something like even as a young man, I mean, and I think there's value in what you're saying there, in terms of you, like there's a journey, and what you're saying, like you couldn't get to where you are now without going through what you went through, or without
it was a discovery process, Joe. It was I never sat down with Senshido ever and went, I have the perfect system. Right? I never did that.
Other people did.
A lot of people did. A lot of other people did, even on my, which is why, you know, it's always been, and it still is today. Like if I didn't have that issue and people didn't get so stuck on the fucking shredder and the name, I would still be teaching, because in essence, this is still Senshido what I'm doing. That's the essence of what I first wrote when I wrote the definition of Senshido. Is my first words is Senshido is change. It's evolutionary. You know, they accepted it on a physical level. Oh, we're not doing Huban anymore because it's not functional. We're going to change to whatever. Oh, cool, good stuff. But as soon as it got cerebral and emotional, and I understand, because in order to be able to teach that, you have to go look at yourself now, don't you?
Oh, yeah. And that was what I was saying, empathy, right? Empathy is key, but until you know yourself, you can't know anyone else. And if you are still tied up in your own insecurities, I think I mean, I don't have any neuroscience to back this up, but I think if you're still tied up in your own insecurities, it is impossible to be empathetic towards anyone else's problems.
No, that's right. That's right. Or you could be very limited or selective based on your own perspective. I know, because I've been there. I fucking did it. Yeah. Right? I didn't understand certain things until I experienced it, went, what's this? And then researched it and went, oh, fuck, that's what that is. And I didn't just bypass it. A lot of people just done. Why? Well, it doesn't fit the program. We have this is what we do. This doesn't go here. And then there's the part where, like we just said, the part that you got to go, oh, wait a minute. Trauma, mental health, wait a minute, PTSD? Whoa. You know, what is this woke bullshit or whatever? It's like, well, that's the whole aspect, right? What's Bruce Lee talk about? Self-actualization, introspection, knowing oneself. What's the whole process of go before Bruce Lee, the Sun Tzu or those guys? Well, know thy enemy.
Yeah. I was
right? Know thy enemy.
Bruce's philosophy is based on Taoism and Sun Tzu and
right?
You know, like it's not like these are all his ideas. I mean, this is a man who took what was related in areas that I think historically, I mean, and I'm talking thousands of years ago, were things that the privileged warrior class could actually think about because they were in a position of stability and they could actually think deep thoughts and engage in philosophy and things. And then then martial arts wasn't a commercial endeavor. It was something that you did to survive or something you did to win battles.
Right.
So it had a whole different purpose. But when it becomes commercial, we want to be able to say, here's the limits of my product. Like, I need to know what my product is. And I think that's sometimes the limitation. And I want to wrap this up because we're about to head to the end of the live. But I do want to come back to study of violence because I think it is free. You don't even have to provide an email address. Rich has missed an amazing opportunity to create an email list, but there's no email list. You don't get emails from Study of Violence.
We don't track it. We have no idea who goes to it. We're
Yeah.
literally giving it to the world just here.
Yeah, it's crazy. But anyway, I mean, crazy from a business point of view, fantastic from a human point of view. But I think sometimes
I'm not a businessman.
we've established that.
You know this.
I'm just amazed that you showed up on time to this Zoom. I mean, so I thank you, Pam.
When you got a good woman at your side, it helps.
Yeah, thanks, Pam. When you added me on LinkedIn, I was like, Rich has LinkedIn? And then I messaged you and it's like, no, it's Pam here. I'm like, oh, okay, that makes sense. But sorry, I was going to say we were talking about before, like you were instructors to go to study of violence. And what I would encourage instructors to do, because I've felt this pushback. If you're teaching Goju-Ryu karate, or you're teaching a martial art of any sort, any name, like let's not pick on anyone, but it can be hard to go, well, I'm teaching martial art. I'm not teaching psychology. I'm not teaching behavior. I'm not teaching rape prevention or child predator prevention. But be honest about, is that something that is not congruent with your mission? Or is it something that just doesn't fit within the confines of this style that you've kind of limited yourself to? Because there's...
You're asking a lot of people.
I know, right? But I'm challenging people to say, what is it you're actually trying to achieve? If you're trying to achieve passing on the style of Chojin Miyagi, or you're trying to pass on the style of whoever, Bruce Lee. I mean, although I'd question that if you're closing your mind and you're trying to pass on the style of Bruce Lee, you might be failing. But if you're trying to pass on a style and just some physical movements, and that's your mission, that's totally cool. If you're just trying to make sports fighters and you're trying to get people to win titles and improve their life through combative sports, that's cool too. But if you think your mission is to make people safer, yet you're closing your mind to material that will actually make people safer because it doesn't fit within your system, then your system has become the enemy to your progression.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. Which is why there's no, I don't teach a system.
Yeah.
I don't teach a style. I don't have a brand. There's no brand. Study of violence that's not a brand. First, it's free, so what am I branding? Second, it's just exactly what it is, which is the study of violence. There's no logo, there's no brand, there's no nothing. And there's no, like, I can't certify. I don't certify. I'm done with all of that shit too. We tried it. We kind of went back to it for a fraction of a second there, and we figured this is much better off as a master class than a certification process. I don't want people busting my ball. I don't need a team anymore. I don't fucking need people lingering on me, and you know. So I just, you know, you've come in, you've gotten the information, you go home. Goodbye. Thank you. I go to my mechanic, he fixes my tires, I come home.
Yep.
I don't bitch about other tires. I don't call him and go how he should brand his fucking tires. That's his balls about how he's running his business. Fucking
yeah.
So
to me, like, and I'm not blowing smoke up your ass here, but to me, I mean, your approach is what I think Bruce would have got to. Like, I think that's where Bruce was heading. I think Bruce would have disenfranchised himself from the martial arts so far, probably by the 90s, that he either would have become a hermit and basically just gone, you know what, screw all you guys. Or I don't think he would, like, I mean, some people say, well, would he be doing what Dan DeSanto's doing and have black belts in a bazillion arts?
I don't think so. I think Dan took it in his way.
Yeah.
A lot of people went their way with what they, you know, through their relations to what they believed Bruce Lee was doing. This is the way I went. This is what I believe, or what I at least understood from him and what he put out there that he was doing. So I went, well, I want to do that. That's his philosophy. And my understanding from him was never do it my way. My understanding from him was there's a human formula. We're human beings. It's like he says, beyond culture, beyond system, beyond style, beyond skin color and race and belief system, there's something that unites all of us, and that's our, well, species. And we're bound by certain behavioral and, you know, that are co-rooted. You can't, we all have that. except for maybe a tiny little 1% of psychopath. And even then, once we understand them, we can better deal, can't we? Why? Because we know how they function. We have an idea of how they process and what they do to manipulate. So it's the whole know thy enemy principle comes down to knowing yourself, expressing your right. It's basically what he was saying. So and that has nothing to do with art or system, right? Bruce wasn't even teaching, I don't think he'd be going in the direction of perhaps violence prevent, I think he'd be maybe a cross between me and Jeff Thompson today,
I don't know if you heard the interview I had with Jeff, but man,
I never have time to hear. I've got about 60 interviews back that I want to hear.
Jeff blew me away, man. It's such a lovely, gentle human being.
Yeah.
And I said, like, we had a listener question of, what does your training look like these days? He goes, this is my training. And his training, like, this is a man who can quote you the Torah, who can quote you the Quran, who can quote you the Bible, who can quote you Lao Tzu, who can quote, like, this is a man who has embedded himself in the study of humanity.
He's another, by the way, that I see people calling him a pussy now. Well,
people were doing that 20 years ago too. But I think this is a good takeaway here, because there's the final couple of paragraphs, I think, of this essay, Liberate Yourself from Classical Karate, brings us home here. And I want to go back on what you said, people calling you a woke pussy. To me, the people that annoy me,
man, better than being an asleep one, I guess.
But these I think the what people rebel against is people telling them how they should live, they haven't lived that life. People that haven't been through anything telling them that they don't have a right to feel pain, or people that haven't dealt with violence telling them that violence is wrong. Like that. Those are the people that I think those of us that have seen some stuff sometimes rebel against, going like, dude, you're 21 years old, you've grown up with a trust fund, how dare you tell me how to live, right? Those are the people that I think we rebel against, and that's the woke liberal pussy issue. But what I think is important here is when you've got someone who has been through what you think is reality and they've come out the other side and they've changed, that's where it's interesting. Okay, this is not someone who doesn't have any life experience. Who's just like, if you're 16 years old and you're listening to this right now and you go, I want to be Richard Dimitri, that's cool, but don't be fixated on trying to be Richard Dimitri at 51. Right?
No,
you need to go through your own journey to get there, because if this is a model that you want to follow, that's cool, but don't get fixated on trying to remain Richard Dimitri at 51, just like you don't want to be Bruce Lee at 31. That
exactly. That's something I would have greatly benefited from at 16, 17 had somebody told me that, or
Yeah, I mean, I'm only 34. I'm a young guy. I still look back at things, like I've always written stuff. And I look back at stuff that I wrote when I was 20, when I thought I was very smart. Like I thought I had all this figured out, right? And I look at articles I wrote when I was like in my early 20s, and I can't believe what an idiot I was. Like I can't believe what a colossal douchebag I was. And I'm like, people still liked me. Like, how does this even? So I can't wait till I'm 45 and I find out how dumb I am now. Like that's gonna be remarkable to look back and go, wow, you had a podcast and you were still talking all that shit. But I can't see it now, but I know there's going to come a time when this is going to look really stupid. So I'm going to close off our final point to talk to you about. This is the last two paragraphs of Liberate Yourself from Classical Karate. There is no standard in total combat, and expression must be free. This liberating truth is a reality only insofar as it is experienced and lived by the individual himself. It is a truth that transcends styles or disciplines. Remember, too, that Jeet Kune Do is merely a term, a label to be used as a boat to get one across. Once across, it is to be discarded and not carried on one's back. 1971.
Right.
The two paragraphs are, at best, a finger pointing to the moon. Please do not take the finger to be the moon or fix your gaze so intently on the finger as to miss all the beautiful sights of heaven. After all, the usefulness of the finger is in pointing away from itself to the light, which illuminates finger and all. Dude, poetic. But
yeah,
dude, like, this is exactly what we're saying. It's exactly what we've been saying.
Yeah, pretty much. Well, yeah, that's, again, like I said, it's what I understood from him growing up and reading which was the essence of what we were doing at Senshido, constant laboratory. Nothing was, there's constant evolution to the drills, and it's not just me. I didn't come, I'm not the one who, my students came up with drills. It's an amalgamation of experiences and so much more that it's not what is to be passed down from this is a method of analyzing or viewing and understanding ourselves and humanity through the work that I chose in relation to violence. Bruce was doing it in relation to martial arts, so he was a bit more philosophical and a bit more spiritual and a bit more poetic. I worked for the mob. I saw people die. I fucking did crazy shit, and so I'm more raw. I'm more fuck you, but the boat, again, it's the delivery system, it's the methodology. So I think that the journey is what's important, and the understanding of every relatable point that you can add. And I'm a big fan of, I'm much more left brain than I am right brain, I guess. So I'm much more analytical and logical, and then you compile all the other shit that I have from ADHD and PTSD and everything else. I see things a certain way. I lucked out with all my shit. At least the one positive came out of my fucked up brain is the ability to see violence the way I do, and put it together the way I do, and express it the way I do, to be able to do this podcast with you, and to be who I am and have done what I've done.
Yeah,
it's an amalgamation of things. It's no one thing. So I didn't want to pass on a system.
Yeah.
I didn't want to pass on a name. I wanted to pass on a legacy.
And brother, in the 13 years I've known you, even just in that time, like the evolution, like from Rich the human being, like the highs and lows that I've just been privy to in 13 years. Like, it's been amazing to watch, and it's a constant study and evolution. And I think this is what Bruce would have wanted us to take away from this article: is don't stop evolving, don't stop,
don't stop growing, don't stop learning.
Keep emptying that cup. Keep reconsidering whether new information is valid, and don't be clouded to that by your ego or by your style or by your identity, but rather, or what political party you vote for or what Facebook groups you belong to. If something feels right to you, explore it and understand it, and see whether it'll benefit your life. And I think that's something that we can all benefit from. Like, I'd love to know Bruce Lee's thoughts on the world around us right now. But dude, if there's any one word that I think we as a society need right now, it's empathy. But mate,
trauma erases a lot of it. Undealt trauma almost kills it, depending on the individual, and that it's the cause root outside of psychopathy. Everything else that has to do with empathy, its lack thereof, or its limited or selective aspect of it, is a defense mechanism rooted in trauma. And if people understood that, hence it all comes back down to we are our own worst enemy, isn't it? And this is something we were saying before I even met Pam. Self-defense begins with the self. Ain't nobody gonna fuck your life up or hurt you more than you at any given moment. And so, and we get in our own way. And the sad part about trauma, the toughest, I didn't realize I had it, brother. I mean, I knew I had some form of, I figured by logistics, but I never understood the depth, and I never knew I suffered from social anxiety disorder or depression at the levels that I have. I had no clue. No, I had no idea. And if anybody outside of a professional therapist, when I was ready, this is very important, when I was ready to hear it, if anybody would have told me, you have this, you have that, I would have said, fuck you, what do you know? I wouldn't have accepted that. So that's the tough part. So what we're trying to do is bring an awareness to that cause, to that root cause of 99% of social and antisocial violence today in both first and third world countries outside of the war, right? Talking about human society. So not political or it is that it comes down to that.
Yeah.
Like if we treated that, if we understood it more and we had more awareness and treatment, and people had the balls to admit, and if we can get over the stigma, you would see social violence drastically reduce by like 90%. I'm convinced of it. It's fucking mathematical. It's not a belief. You can literally break it down.
Yeah.
So, and I got, I just posted today, some guy sent me a message from the last podcast I did. He was saying, wow, that, made him think when he realized they had certain rage issues. And that's it. If that guy can catch that, and he goes, wait a minute, and he does something about it, we just fucking outburst a shitload of stuff that's going to come in the future, didn't we?
Absolutely.
Just by his realization that, oh, I still have anger issues and I do that. Thank you for being so raw, and honest, and looking like, hey, cool. That's we're trying to make people realize.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
It's tough. It's hard because at the end of the day, you got to face the man in the mirror.
Yeah, that's it. And
you realize that he's the bad guy, and it's not the fucking guy lurking the bushes. You don't need to walk around with 50 knives to stab everybody who wants to jump you. When you realize it's that guy, everything changes. It's just, and on a positive level. So anyway, all that.
All right, Mitch. We will end the YouTube live there. You and I have talked for many, many hours in the past, and can certainly do it again in the future. But
anytime, brother.
I do encourage you, everyone who is still with us, to check out studyofviolence.com. It's all free, but there's also some premium content that comes out every now and then. So follow the social medias. And jump on that. It's a worthwhile investment. Rich, if you wouldn't mind, let's hang around and do some bonus content as well. But for those of us that are joining us that are on YouTube live or listening to the audio podcast, thank you very much, Mr. Richard Dimitri, for sharing wisdom and having a fun chat about the immortal dragon Bruce Lee.
Right, it was amazing.
Thanks, guys.
Time flies. Wow, just so